Hello everyone! As always, after an orchid show video comes a video about all the goodies we got from the vendors at the show. We had some of these pre-ordered this time, others were just spur-of-the-moment purchases. This time though, we have to see plant by plant if we're going to repot them right now or not. We are going away for the holidays soon, and I don't want to stress these with a repot to then leave them without supervision or water for a few weeks. So I'm going to be showing you the plants, and then we can decide if there's something to intervene or not. As always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want more orchid content, give this video a like, and if you want to sponsor our orchid adventures, we do have a super thanks option active on the channel. So let's get started. The first one is an orchid we've had before. It struggled for years until it just gave up this summer. It was one of my absolute favorites. I just love the tiny black flowers so much. So when we saw it available from one of our favorite local nurseries, we reserved it immediately to pick up at the show. And this one looks much better than our previous one. The bulbs look bigger and more plump, and it's overall a healthy plant. I do see some webbing there, so I'm definitely spraying all the new plants with insecticide. Because of that, and because this nursery uses a really loose and draining substrate, I think I will be repotting at least this one. I feel it will be better off in some sphagnum while we're away this December. Also, I see a new growth in there, so there will be new roots coming in soon anyway. I just found what I'm sure is a flower spike, but I decided to go ahead with the repotting either way. Between the webbing it had in the beginning and a little mealybug I found in the roots, I think it's better off with clean substrate and a spritz of insecticide. It wasn't even established in the nursery substrate yet, so now was definitely the time to repot. I used a really straightforward mix of bark and sphagnum and covered the top with finer bark, just to make sure that the sphagnum doesn't end up getting all slimy with algae in the long run. Next we have another Maxillaria that I reserved from the same vendor. And from the video that they posted, I knew that these were climbers, but I didn't expect something this extreme. Still, knowing how much I hate climber orchids, I should have steered clear of a Maxillaria like this one, so what can I say? I guess even with pre-ordering I can manage to do some impulse shopping. I figured the collectionist in me really wanted another small Maxillaria, this time with white and greenish flowers. I know what I want to do with this one is to chop it up into sections so it's less climby, but I'm afraid to do something so extreme before we leave for a while. On the other hand, this substrate is not going to maintain it very well without frequent watering, and so many of the roots are up in the air, so I think I'm just going to risk it, knowing it's a risk and it might just cost me the plant. Okay, there we go. That was stressful. I'm used to doing this with my tennifolia, and it usually is just fine, but this is a much more bare plant with not a lot of growth, so it was way more stressful to do. Even with dividing it into 3 sections, there are roots up in the air, so I'm trying to adjust the sections in a way that maybe those can go into the pot if they grow longer. Another thing against us with this one is that I can't find anything about its culture online. There's absolutely nothing. So what I'm planning to do is to treat it the same as the other Maxillarias we have and hopefully be able to adjust as needed. Because of that, I'm using again just bark and sphagnum. Looking at it all potted up, I wish I would have used more sphagnum. If it's anything like my other Maxillarias, this is going to be a thirsty girl. And I think it very well may be, because the pseudobulbs look very dehydrated compared to the images of established plants I've seen online. This is another orchid we pre-ordered, and it was a bit more expensive, at least for our budget. But I had never seen it for sale, and ever since I started collecting orchids, I've seen pictures of this oncidium with blackened the flowers, and I just really wanted one, so I just had to get it. The plant is much bigger than I expected from the pictures. But I do find the pseudobulbs really cute and round. It seems to be in pure bark, instead of the mix this nursery uses that has clay pebbles, so it would be less dire to leave it as is. On the other hand, it seems to be very loose in the pot, and it does have a new growth making roots. So I guess the time to repot would be now. I'm going to see how easy it is to pull it out of the pot first. Turns out, pretty easy. And the roots look great too. I'm just going to trim these back bulbs. Even though they still have some good roots, I think they will get in the way of fitting it into a smaller pot. I always take this opportunity to get rid of all of these old dried up sheaths. And of course, hit it with the insecticide, because all of these plants are quarantining close together. Turns out, even though I trimmed the back bulbs, it still couldn't fit in a smaller pot. And the only self-watering we have that she fits in is these tall ones. As you probably know, we have all of our oncidiums in self-watering now, so we're able to keep them in taller shelves without having to water them as much. This oncidium looks really adorable, doesn't it? I hope it does well for us, because it would not be easy to replace. Finally, from this same nursery, we ordered another Masdevallia. We have managed to keep our Masdevallia minuta alive for almost a year, so I looked at all the Masdevallias they had available and decided to be brave. I researched what species are more warm tolerant, and this one was one of them. And it's so pretty as well. I love the stripy flowers. And the flowers are so big. At least now it's really beautiful, all full of blooms. I don't know about next year, if it even survives. Like the oncidium, we're going to be growing this one in self-watering, so I think it would be better to repot it now and leave her with a reservoir while we're on vacation. But as I unpot this, I start to regret repotting it now. It was in pure sphagnum and it looked really nice. But I guess it's too late to go back now. I try to at least not disturb the roots much, so I'm removing the sphagnum strands one by one with tweezers. It takes forever, but it's worth it. I'm using one of these self-watering pots that I don't love, because they topple over really easily. I couldn't find a good plastic pot to decopot combo to DIY the self-watering setup, and there aren't any other small self-watering pots for sale. At least I haven't found one. I'm using pure sphagnum, but I'm keeping it very loose. And I still put a couple of pieces of bark in the middle, just to help it dry down evenly. Now we have a Dendrobium by another local nursery we like. When you see us buy orchids that are mounted, and you probably have never heard of them, they are from this nursery. We usually haven't heard of them either, and we pick them up at the show after some quick googling about their care and what the flowers look like. In this case, they have a similar shape and color to other Dendrobium types we have, but it does look very pretty. Most of all, people say they smell wonderful. And of course, I could not pass on another mini Dendrobium. I haven't been able to pass on mini anything, let's be honest. This one we're not even going to attempt to pot now. Removing the roots from that wood mount would completely destroy them. Also, from what I could research online, this orchid requires a bit of a winter rest. Maybe not completely dry for months, but it would definitely be better to repot it in the spring. I do wish I had known that before I soaked it, as you can probably tell from the water on the table. What I am going to do is place it temporarily in a pot with sphagnum surrounding it to make sure it stays at least a little hydrated during our vacation. But first, a little break to rescue a tiny spider. I don't understand why this year this show was so late in the season and so close to the holidays. But it would feel wrong to go and not buy anything. I was very surprised they managed to have so many blooming orchids for the displays at this time of year. At the stand of another vendor that I actually never purchased from before, I spotted this little Bulbophyllum that has been in my wish list for years. I love the flowers. They are that really dark, almost black purple, with cute little spots and a really lovely shape. We have had it before, but it died quickly of unknown causes, and for some reason it seems to be a difficult one to find. Looking at the plant, that does look very healthy. I think this one might not be flowering size quite yet, but I was glad I was able to grab it. We also grow all our bulbophyllums in self-watering, and this one is in sphagnum, and that usually makes the repots easier, so I'll be repotting this one quickly as well. After removing all the sphagnum, this orchid is doing what so many bulbophyllums do, and make repotting them so frustrating. Because of the long rhizome, they can grow all crooked, so you either leave the young bulbs with the roots hanging out, or you risk burying the older bulbs a little. I'm trying to adjust the plant in the pot as much as I can to minimize this, but that bulb in the middle is always going to be a little bit buried. So I made sure at least the area around it was filled by bark and not sphagnum. And in the end, one of the newer bulbs was still a bit in the air. But that's what you deal with these bulbophyllums. And I love them so much, I'm willing to be frustrated. Finally, at that same stall, Jay spotted this cute Encyclia with the grassy leaves and the round pseudobulbs and picked it up as a gift for me. This is another one I'd never heard of, but my Encyclia bracteata is becoming one of my favorite orchids, so I'm glad I have another one that the plant looks kinda similar. As for the flowers, they have a very generic Encyclia shape, but they are green and white. I've always wanted one of those alba varieties of some Encyclias that are green and white just like this, and never got one because the plants tend to be quite big. And now I have it in a miniature. Just can't wait for this one to bloom. This one I really am afraid to repot right now, being a cattleya type. You know you're gonna destroy the roots and it's gonna struggle. And then I read that it likes a bit of a drier winter, so I'm definitely gonna leave it alone until spring. And I also shouldn't have soaked it. My bad. These plants, especially the ones that I didn't repot, are going to stay in the other indoor balcony until we return, to quarantine them from the rest of the collection. I hope you enjoy seeing our new orchids. Let us know if you have any of these. Any tip on their culture would be very much appreciated. We'll see you again next week. Goodbye.